he is hungry for human company. After a couple of months, he's going a little around the bend and he needs some human company. And so this is where human forms start to take on more meaning for him. Bangor and the Bangor Brewer area are full of statues. You don't find them in any city really north of Bangor. If you get in the car and you drive to almost any city north of Bangor, they have one statue, and it's of a Civil War soldier, and it's the same one in every town. You've all seen him over and over, poor guy. Okay, but in Bangor Brewer, we have Hannibal Hem. We have the Pierce Memorial right outside the library, which is amazing. We have Paul Bunyan, who I'm going to read to you about. And there's a statue of I think I just call it Victory. And she has her torch up in the little park by Norumbega. And there's so many others, little ones around. And so I thought, how interesting would it be if this boy whose imagination has begun to actually take on life, if he could actually talk to a statue and have it talk back. And so I'm going to read to you a little section here about General Joshua Chamberlain in Freedom Park, right over the bridge in Brewer. I'm surprised, by the way, I teach in Brewer, and I'm surprised about how many kids actually don't know who he is in the Bangor Brewer area. So we have to do something to change that. Freedom Park was just to the left of the Irving gas station. Brady tended to put his hands in his pockets and slowly saunter, looking at the ground, when he needed to really have a good think, shuffling around. He soon found himself sitting at the foot of the bronze statue of General Joshua Chamberlain, Civil War hero of the Battle of Gettysburg and Little Round Top, savior of the Union because he didn't surrender or retreat. Every Brewer student knew the stories of this illustrious man, I made that up, whose courage, tenacity, and spirit made him the city's most favored son. Brady liked the statue's look. It seemed like it was thinking, contemplating something with its arms crossed in stern consideration of some unknown stratagem. For some reason, Brady's head always was a little clearer up here on the high ground. The makers of the little park had gone to great pains to make it an accurate replica of Little Round Top, that hilltop in Pennsylvania that Colonel Chamberlain so gallantly held against the rebel onslaught. Brady liked the effect somehow, feeling that this artificial place had more realism than all the real world that surrounded him. For a long time he sat there lost in thought for reasons he didn't understand. The were-dogs never came out for long in the light of day. What troubled him was their message and the reason behind it. This was an empty world, but a big one nonetheless. There was plenty of room for all of them, boy, were-dogs, and all the other creatures now emerging from the great forest. Why did his presence disturb them? More than anything, he puzzled over the signature in blood on the side of the life-seeker, Grendel, leave or die. As he sometimes did when he needed to hear a human voice, Brady spoke aloud. We're in a bit of a pickle, Max. I sure wish I knew what to do. Brady was stunned when he heard a reply to his statement. Yes, that seems about right. You, sir, are on the precipice, the very edge of a dilemma. Your next move could determine the fate of your life. Choose wisely. He hadn't heard another human voice for a very long time, outside of his own sweet and somewhat fanciful imagination. Who was speaking? He scanned the area and saw no one, his heart pounding like a 10-pound hammer in his chest. Up here, cadet. Look up. General Joshua Chamberlain of the 20th Maine was looking down on him with a calm demeanor on his bronze face. Brady couldn't muster a word or movement. He was the statue now, and the form of Chamberlain was the only thing moving. It seemed that all he could do was move his head. The rest of his form was paralyzed in metal, but he looked down at Brady, blinked, and smiled. Sorry to frighten you, lad. I only just realized I could talk. It's been a while coming, but I must say now I can utter a sound. It is a great relief. Seeing that Brady was still stunned, the colonel looked away to the Bangor side of the river and up the Penobscot toward the bay. He was waiting for Brady to respond, which he finally did a few moments later. You can speak? You're alive? Brady asked. Well, I think the answer to the first question is obvious. As to the second question, I have my doubts, answered the colonel. But if you're not alive, what are you? Brady asked, still incredulous, dumbfounded. Make no mistake, I am not the actual General Joshua Chamberlain. That'd be quite impossible. He passed on a long time ago and went to his final reward. No, I'm not the real thing. I am something similar, replied the statue. Something similar? Brady couldn't hide his astonishment. A facsimile. I believe I am animated by all the thoughts, ideas, knowledge, and opinions of General Joshua Chamberlain, that once were housed in the minds of people. Memory kept the general alive. Since there's no one left to remember him except for you, of course, I believe I'm the amassed memory of that man. And all of those thoughts have coalesced. Somehow I have been made more than a hunk of fashioned metal. I am not at all sure that the real colonel would approve of this situation. He would find this an abomination of nature, I am sure. Brady felt the bonds of sanity gripping him. He knew this was impossible, but he also was smart enough to understand that the world had changed, was changing still. If without humans, dogs could turn into human-like creatures, perhaps talking statues might be something to consider. Or he was insane. How long have you been aware of things? Asked Brady. Well, I don't know exactly. Passage of time is a human thing, not a human. Counted daylight and darkness, I'd say about 3 weeks. However, I've not been able to utter a sound till just now. Perhaps I could speak all the while, but you are the first person to have the chance to engage in conversation. Do you know what happened to the people? Inquired Brady. The colonel shook his head. No, not precisely. I can surmise that some terrible contagion may have taken them all suddenly, but I confess that it seems like the wrath of God for such a number to perish so quickly, like the angel of death over the armies of Sennacherib. Nope, it was a scientific mistake. People did this themselves, answered Brady. Was that so? Then this is truly desperate. May I inquire how it is that you survived? Well, I don't know, just lucky, I guess. Yes, sir, I suppose that's one way of looking at it, answered the colonel. And then he said after a long pause, we have not been introduced. I am he who represents all that was once held in the minds of people as Joshua Chamberlain. And you are? Brady Smith. Just Brady Smith. The colonel looked up the river again, and then after a pause said, not just Brady Smith. From what I have observed, you are the Brady Smith. Sir? Brady asked. I've had little else to do up here on this pedestal but watch the world go by, and a large part of that's been watching you. You're a resourceful fellow, Mr. Smith, and one that I would have been proud to have served with if circumstances allowed. You're a survivor of the First Order. I dare say, if the very survival of the species relied on your actions, humanity stands at least a fighting chance. So, and then he has a friend now, someone he can talk to, but he can't move because he's stuck. The only thing he can move is his head. But there are animals called were-dogs. All the dogs are normal dogs during the day, but at night they change, and terrible things happen. And so he gets the advice to move into this place that you're looking at. The Bangor Public Library is the main setting of the book. That's where Brady moves in at roughly page 124, and he lives here. And this becomes his fortress because it's safe and it's solid, and it's Joshua Chamberlain says, the best tool you have now, boy, is your knowledge. And you have almost none of it because you're 14. You need to learn. And the only place left is that building across the river.